Hello student, welcome back to another tutorial lesson of political science. This is part 2 of chapter 2, that is nation and state. In the first part of the tutorial lesson, we have discussed what is a nation, the features and the essential elements of a state. And in this part 2, we are going to discuss the meaning and elements of the states, the attributes of the state, national self-determination, and cultural nationalism and pluralism. So the meaning and elements of a state, before we go to the meaning, first we'll discuss the importance of a state. Like in the way back to this to the traditional thinkers of the political thinkers, many of these political thinkers, they define political science as a state. They give much importance to the state, like Jettel and like Garnier. They define political science as a state, and they place state at a very highest level. And in fact, no book of political science can ignore a reference to such terms as nation state or feudal state or the modern state. So from the time immemorial, state has captured that important place in the history, and now it is also playing a very much important role as that of much in the past. So the meaning of a state, Aristotle defined state as a union of families or a village for having for its end and perfect and having a self-sufficing, by which we mean a happy and honorable life. And in the modern thinkers of this whole Garnier and Raphael, their definition of state is much more satisfying, because in their definition they consist of territory, consist of a population, government and sovereignty. So the definition of this state was given out by this Garnier, saying that the state as a concept of political science and public law is a community or a person more or less numerous, permanently occupying a definite portion of territory, independent or nearly so of external control, and possessing an organized government to which the great body of inhabitants render habitual obedience. In this definition, the essential elements of the modern state population community of a person consists of territory, sovereignty, and the government. So let's right away discuss about the essential elements of a state. In a state, the essential features which are to be included are population. See, in a state, if there is no population, we cannot consider that state as a state. We cannot consider that nation as a nation. But when there is a population, when there is a people inhabiting in that particular country or in that particular region or that particular area, we can consider that as a nation or a state. So in the state, the character, the wisdom and education characterize and depends the progress of a nation. Like the size of a population of a state cannot be fixed. See, some of the state might have more than millions, more than lakhs, more than even up to the extent of like more than millions. So we cannot fix the number of a population in a state, and any number of men can constitute a state. Like we are not talking about 1, 2, 3 particular person, but we are talking about like a number of men. I mean, like people can constitute a state, but according to the population, the progress of a nation is dependable. So it is desirable that population is reasonably to meet the self-sufficient and the needs of the people. Like see in China has the highest population, and the second highest is the India. So the population is exceeding the resources of the nation. So if the population is exceeding the resource of a nation, the nation cannot progress. So it is said that the resources should meet, or the state should meet, the reasonable self-sufficiency of the needs of the people. And this population is considered to be the essential features and elements of a state. Now, territory. Another characteristic features of the state is territory. Like in India, we have McMahon line, we have line of control to identify the particular territory, or to identify the particular boundaries between other country and India. So this territory plays a very important role, and this territory includes the surface of the land, the soil beneath the surface, the lakes and the rivers lying wholly within a state, and the waters of the boundary rivers. So not only that, but the air, like falling space within the surface of the state, and the maritime belt, that is the area of the territorial sea. So this territory is like the identification of a state. And like how much territory is necessary, there is no limit, and the limit cannot be laid down as to the extent of territory necessary to form a state. Now, like today, state exists with areas varying from less than 2 square kilometer or to 9,5600 square kilometer, or like even covering up to the millions of square kilometers. So we cannot lay down a fixed area or to the extent of territories necessary. And this territory plays a very important role in the formation of a state. And the third point is the government. Government plays a very important role in the state. It is defined as the agency or machinery through the will of the people is formulated, expressed, and realized. So without a government, people would be an unruly mass with no means of collective action. So the government is there to express, to formulate, and to realize the needs of the people in the country. And this government, it consists of legislative, executive, and judicial branch. So the legislative is to formulate the laws, the executive is to implement, and the judicial is to execute the law. So these are the important features of the elements of the state. And another point of the state is the essential features of a state is sovereignty. Sovereignty plays a very important role in the features of a state, because this sovereignty distinguishes state from the ordinary citizens, from all other human association. No one is above the state, and the state is the supreme will of the people. And this sovereignty has two main aspects, that is internal supremacy and external supremacy. So this internal supremacy is talking about state absolute control over the person and things within its territory, except those who are over whom it has waived its jurisdiction in order to fulfill its obligation under international law. So in this sovereignty, it is in the internal sovereignty, it is said that there cannot be there can be only one legal sovereign upon the same territory over the same people. See, we don't have two prime minister, but we have only one prime minister. We don't have two chief minister, but we have only one chief minister. So that is a kind of example that is given in the internal supremacy. And the powers of the government may be divided between the central authorities and the one hand on the state or the local, but this does not mean that existence of two legal sovereign within the same territory. And the external independence is talking about international law sovereignty, stands for independent statehood and complete freedom from direct external control. But in here, with the coming up of this World Trade Organization, International Monetary Fund, and other international organizations, it has hampered and limited the scope of the state with activity in many ways. So these are the essential features of a state, and now let's move on to the attributes of the state. So the attributes of the state is discussed in 3 points. That is, the first point is permanence, elements of permanency. The state is a permanent entity. It even like the state, even there is an addition or there is an omission or partial loss of territory, or like result from conquest or result from a defeat, it will not affect the existence of a state, but the state will be a permanent entity. And the second is a continuity of a state. Like the government may go, the government may be replaced by one after another, the people may die off, and the people may be born in this way. Like even though it has this cyclic condition, the state will continue to be as a state. And like the new government become the successor or to the funds, state debts and obligation of the old government, but the state cannot be replaced, but the state will continue to remain as a state. And the equality of the states, like whatever inequality exists in a state between the state as regard to their size, population, territory, resources, nevertheless equal as international person, the state provides this. The state has the equality. I mean, the UNO is based on the principle of the sovereign equality of all states. So whether the people existing between the state or the state existing in the state have this inequality, yet it will not have inequality in the spheres of states. So this is the attributes of the states, and let's move on to this, the national self-determination. So this national self-determination, it is talking about the self-rule, the self-governing rule. So this, when we talk about this national self-determination, we'll go back to the First World War and before that. So like a question arises whether every nation or nationality has the natural right to be a self-governing nation or a state, or does each state or each nationality deserve to be a sovereign state? So when this thing's question was asked, like the Congress of Vienna took place at the end of the Napoleonic Wars. So in this Congress of Vienna, it met a major alternation to various state boundaries, and when it dominated European politics, the European politics was based on one nation, one state. So this principle was received much appreciation, much support during the First World War. But as with the existence of this one nation, one state, there was also a disruption among the states. Like some of the states, they want their own self-governing state, or they want their own state to be a self-governing, national self-governing state. So when after this treaty, like the Treaty of Versailles, came in 28 June 1919 between Germany and Allied force. When this Treaty of Versailles was signed between Allied forces and Germany, the First World War came to an end. So when the First World War came to an end, even like the states within this European was also given the right to national self-determination, or like they were allowed to join those states whom they wish to. So this national self-determination of one state, one nation in the way back to this the Treaty of the Congress of Vienna. It was abolished by the Congress by the Treaty of Versailles. So the significance of the principle of self-determination. The principle of self-determination gave a way and paved the way for the states under these European countries after the First World War, and they were given the right to govern their own state, or they were given the right to join any state whom they wish or whom they had political and national affinities. And the second point is, the nationalists believed that ideals of liberty, equality could never be realized until all nations were free. This national self-determination believes that if the nation are not free from colonial rule, or if the nation are not free from any kind of principalities or values and ideas, then that nation can never realize, and the nation can never have that self-governing state, or they cannot achieve liberty, equality in this sphere. So the nationalists believed in self-determination, natural equality and freedom of all nationalities. And the third significance of the principle of national self-determination is it is said that the world peace depends on the recognition of the principle of national self-determination. See, when a nation is not independent, that particular nation tends to protest, tends to always seek to win their nationality back, its independence. And when they started disturbing the state, it also affects world peace and security. And that is why it is said that the world peace is dependent on the nation, on the recognition of the principle of national self-determination. And the fourth significance of the national self-determination is all the states are unified by national sentiments. So it is said that if the nation or if the people are, bind by force or repression, that state cannot have a peaceful state. But if the nation or if the states are unified by national sentiments, it is more stable government, and the laws and they are usually better obeyed by the people within the state. So it is said that in order to control the state with force and repression, it is better to give a national self-determination, so that the people or the nation within and the state within the country, or the people within the country, can better obey that government and can have a peaceful contribution to the world peace also. Now let's discuss what is self-determination, and the difficulties of self-determination, or the self-determination causing difficulties. So in practical, we have discussed about the significance of self-determination, but when we see clearly and when we have this deeper analysis in a practical, the ideal of a self-determination or the ideal of a nation state can cause us lots of difficulties. See, no state is cultural or ethnically homogeneous. So like all states contain some kind of culture or ethnic mixed. So this nation state or the ideal of this self-determination can cause us lots of difficulties, especially in the countries of like Germany, in the countries of Switzerland, or in the countries of like India. See, they have diverse religion, they have diverse ethnic group, they have diverse culture. So if these states or these countries are given a self-determination, there will the state or the country will obviously it will crush into peace, like ethnic groups or like other I mean like the collective group of people who follow their own principality, they will start to demand their own self-ruling government. So if these are given to, if the national self-determination are given to particular country or particular states, it will cause lots of chaos and nuisance in the country. And you know, like such states will simply get disintegrated, leading to the painful displacement of large masses of the people. Like way back in this in the partition of India, right after the I mean like India's getting independence from the colonial rule, India was partially divided into Pakistan and India. So that you know, like when it was departed, it was a colossal of human tragedy. It causes lots of displacement of people. It causes lots of killing. It causes lots of displacement of the people. So these kind of things can happen when a national self-determination or like self-governing of the state are given to the people, to the states in practical. So the strong arguments came in favor of this, I mean like against this self-determination, was that like if a state or if a nation asks this statehood or like demand for this national self-determination, the state or the country within the particular country, they have to know that that particular state demanding for a particular statehood should have a economic viable to sustain itself. And if that particular state is not viable to sustain itself, then the self-governing are not appropriate to that particular state. And also it should be able to defend itself against from the external attack, like since the country cannot rule out the possibility of a war. So these two strong arguments came out in favor of the difficulties caused by the self-determination. Now let's talk about nationalism and pluralism, right of cultural minorities. So what is a pluralism? Pluralism is a term used in a philosophy meaning a doctrine of multiplicity. See, we like this nationalism, although the ideal of one nation, one state are not realized, still then in a country there are diverse culture, religion, or language and all of this. So if we are not following this one nationality, one state, so some of the certain criteria are to be granted to the people, like the right to conserve its language and script, the right to conserve its culture and customs, and the right to conserve its religion and other institutions. So like we are not following this one nation, one state. So this the principality of like right to conserve its language, script, language, I mean like culture, customs and religion should be given to the people or to the citizens of that particular country. So this is all about the nation and state. And like in this chapter, we have discussed, from the first tutorial video, we have discussed nation, we have discussed features of a nation and the elements of a state, self-determination, pluralism. So we have come to the end of this chapter 2, and like if you have any doubts regarding this chapter 2, since we have our general group in WhatsApp, you can text me in my personal number and you can ask me anything that you have doubt. And in the next class, we'll discuss chapter 3. So before we go through, I want all of you to go through this chapter 3, that is citizenship, so that when we go through, I mean like when I explain this chapter 3 to you guys, it will be very easy for you to catch up what I'm trying to say and what this chapter is trying to say. Thank you.